welcome you to the meeting of the Community Reparations Commission.
You know where you are, huh?
Jesus.
Community relations?
First order of business is the remarks from the chair, and we're going to have an interesting meeting this evening. And I encourage all of you all to participate, but to do so politely and kindly, and to give each other time to think and to respond to each other's remarks. Our first thing to do, though, is to do our roll call vote, a roll call attendance.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to do roll call really quickly. Dwayne Barton. Norma Baines.
Here.
Renata Conyers. Christopher Gordon.
Here.
Roy Harris.
Here.
Joyce Harrison.
Here.
Shonda Jackson. Kimberly Jones. Dewana Little.
Here.
Dwayne McAfee.
Here.
Cameron Macon. No, she's not here. Babette Mays.
Present.
Glenda McDowell. Cameron Miller. One second. Dwight Mullen.
Present.
Mildred Nance Carson.
Here.
Bernard Oliphant. Thomas Priester. Jesse Ray.
Present.
Dwayne Richardson.
Here.
Eric Robinson.
Here.
Renita Waters. Cece Weston. Dee Williams.
Here.
MZ Yehuda.
Present.
Keith Young.
Here.
Dee Burris.
Present.
Tiffany Debelow.
Here.
Shakiki Giles Baton. Asandu McPeters.
Present.
And as folks come in, if y'all could please remind me if they come in and I don't recognize them, if you could just let me know that they made it here. All right, thank you.
How many do we have?
I think we have
17.
or 17.
Then we have the quorum. The first action item,
Dwayne Barton.
Dwayne Barton.
15, yes.
First action item, I'd like to seek approval for the minutes for 9/18.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve, please.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second. Are there corrections, comments? Question? All those approving, could you please do a voice vote, please? All those approving, could you say aye? Aye. Opposed? The minutes have been approved. We have an action item on the agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve it?
The agenda?
Yeah.
Agenda?
I'll move.
I want to make a change to the agenda.
I'll make.
The comments are, please? It's been moved and seconded. Comments?
That we have some important information that has been brought to light that be moved to the top of the agenda. That's, I don't think, actually on the agenda.
Can you speak up? We can't hear you.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Okay.
There's some information that has come to light that I believe needs to be discussed at the top of the agenda in reference to Ms. Edwards.
In reference to what? We still can't hear you.
Yeah.
I'll say it again. There is some information that has come to light in reference to Ms. Edwards that I believe we need to discuss at the top of the agenda because I believe it puts into flux everything that this commission is doing.
Okay.
Comment,
I will.
please?
I think it's kind of out of order because we don't know what that is. And I think that's for a discussion that probably needs to come back to us after it's been talked about. Because I really don't want to take the time for something that has come to your attention that we may not know about.
But I want you to find out about it. That's why I was saying that.
But can we go through the agenda first and then pick it
Then
up?
if we,
It's gonna affect the agenda.
I don't wanna be in that arena. And I'm gonna say this, and I may be out of order.
No, this is,
Let me just say this. I have been out for 2 months, I missed August and September, but I made sure that I watched everything that was on YouTube. I watched it all. The way these meetings have been carried out, if you see yourself, I want you to go back and look at yourself and the things that we do. I wish that we could have something positive that we can say instead of something always digging. And I don't want to do that now. I want us to go through whatever we're doing. And if there's something else at the end of this that is beyond our scope, then go get that done first.
Even if that affects
Yes,
this?
even if it does.
So even if having relevant information as you move through the agenda would have been beneficial before you moved the agenda, you'd rather not hear it?
I would rather not hear it right now.
Would you put that, can we have her put that in the motion?
I'm sorry, say it
Can
again?
you have her put that in the motion?
I cannot, there's a motion on the floor, it's
Oh,
been
okay.
seconded.
Oh, your motion is to move
There's
the,
an
whatever
idea
the
to-
No,
item.
he didn't give a motion, he gave a question.
There's a question on the floor regarding the acceptance of the agenda.
Okay.
It's been asked about approval for an amendment to this agenda. And it was, if I'm not mistaken, seconded. Was there a second to the amendment?
There was a second to the.
And that's what we're considering, whether or not we will amend the agenda. More comments,
I have one more comment.
please?
My last comment is,
Don't say it, Dan.
the lives of the black people that's gonna be affected by what we do here is way larger than respectability. The respectability of not wanting to hear something because it might make you feel bad, or the respectability of trying to adhere to white supremacy culture timelines, or any of that. And I'm totally not adhering to any sort of respectability if it's gonna end up damaging my people in the long run. I don't know why everybody else is here. You got your own reasons why you're here. I know why I wrote this thing. I know why I went to help pass it. I know why we are collectively wanting to be at this table. But adhering to like some sort of just, we gotta be respectable when we're not being respected is beyond me.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Mr. Young a question?
I'm sorry, I'm just having a hard time hearing this evening.
May I ask Mr. Young a question?
You want to ask the question, yes?
Yes, oh, yes, yeah.
Mr. Young, is the issue personnel type related?
Yes.
Not our scope.
Okay, so usually in organizations, those are handled differently than the regular agenda.
It's closed.
That's fine. I mean, if we're gonna do the respectability thing, that's fine. I get it. When we get to it, we get to it. But it is gonna be it's of a magnitude that's not conducive to what we're trying to work toward.
Can I just,
Mr. Ray, are you suggesting a closed session?
yes, with personnel. That's
Well,
what you're-
I'm just bringing up the fact that in organizations, both city, county, private, nonprofit, when there are personnel issues, those issues are handled outside of the normal agenda. I'm not saying we don't deal with it. I'm just talking about how we deal with it.
Well, it was gonna come up in this agenda.
Brenda?
So, thank you for recognizing. Brenda Mills, I am with the city of Asheville. This is not a personnel matter. The commission has no personnel.
No.
So, it will come up later in the agenda. I'm not sure quite what Mr. Young is talking about, but, if we could flow through the agenda, that would be great.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
No, don't read
Most
my.
of us don't.
Do that.
Let me just say this.
Let me just make sure, please say your name when you
Okay.
want to
Brenda,
speak and
Brenda,
wait to be.
Brenda, when will it come up in the agenda?
So I don't want to create a distraction for folks, but if you review the agenda, I am listed on the agenda. And I am planning to address this body when the time is right on the agenda. I don't want to create further distraction. Is that okay?
Yep, so let's just.
Well, actually, we have two motions on the floor. One is to amend the motion to accept the agenda. We should call a question on that.
Okay.
May I have it? Is there a question?
The question on what?
The amendment, on whether or not we should amend the agenda.
I move that we do not amend the agenda, that we go as it is presented.
No, actually, I'm asking, are you ready for a vote?
Yeah.
To amend it or not?
To amend it or not?
Okay.
Oh,
We ready.
may we take a roll call vote on whether or not
just by show of
we
hands.
should, I'm sorry?
Show of hands would be easier.
I know it would, but
Yeah,
is that okay? A show of hands?
yeah,
Then let's do that.
that's fine.
Let's do that. All those in favor of amending the agenda as it presently stands, would you please raise your hand? Those in favor of amending the agenda? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9, is that what you have? All those opposed to amending the agenda? I'm sorry, 7. How many do you have? Is that 9 to 8? Is that 9 to 8? 9 in favor of amending the agenda, 8 opposed? The agenda shall be amended.
So, I mean, I just been asked to move it to the top of the agenda so we can address
And
it.
that'd be
Because folks don't know what's,
under new business A, 3A.
Next
We
step.
moving it to
Next
old
up.
business.
Is that how you want to proceed?
It looks like it. Looks like it. The amendment to the agenda is to move new business A to, I guess it would be agenda item 1E.
Okay. There's a lot here that y'all have to get through, so let me just make this quick. One moment. Go up here and address the body.
This is here. This is just this. Let's move it to 1E. It's taking a minute. Salah? Salah, Brenda, I believe the change in the agenda is to move new business 3, this is 3, and the second part of A to agenda item 1, and that becomes E instead of D.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
If y'all could join me up here. I actually have a short statement. I'm not going to be in front of you long, but I have a short statement. So, while it has been an incredible honor to be a member of this effort, it's become evident that through these several months that my involvement is not having the intended impact on the forward movement of this very important work. Therefore, I'm going to be taking a step back from the position of project manager. I believe in reparations for African Americans, period. And I will continue to support reparations in Asheville, Buncombe County, and in other capacities. Specifically, I'm going to be serving as the administrative support manager, ensuring the seamless and on-time payment of all stipends for commission members and IFA facilitators. While I will not lead the strategic direction, agenda setting, or act as a liaison between the government and the commission moving forward, I have extreme confidence in the local leaders who have been leading the impact focus areas for months. Our progress thus far would not have been possible without their support of this project and of me as a project manager. I also have a high level of confidence in the governing bodies, the City of Asheville, and Buncombe County, who are committed to achieving the goals that were set out in their respective resolutions, and seeing the commission through to success. Again, thank you for this honor. I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues who will illustrate how the project will move forward.
Good evening, all. I'm Salam Anaya. I want to assure you that the recommendations will not pause and they will move forward. We will not be, that will not be affected. We have a structure already to develop recommendations, but more importantly, to develop ideas that are community generated and will be community supported. We will work with the city and the county to ensure the project remains on track.
Hi everyone, Dr. Maris Lavender. We know the importance of this work, both locally and nationally and internationally, and that a dialogue between local constituents has to happen and be at the forefront of this next phase of the project as recommendations are finalized and taken to the finish line. The Commission is at a pivotal moment where we cannot lose that momentum, but rather focus on moving forward.
Thank you all. Tara Brown with the Economic Development IFA. Very much looking forward to facilitating the ongoing conversations around what our final recommendations will look like, what your final recommendations will look like, and I believe, are in a really strong place with the work that we've done so far and are ready to do the next steps to really bring it together, especially around some of the joint recommendations and accountability and things like that. So very happy to continue this work.
Good evening, DeAndre Jones. We are in a place where we knew this would happen, where we would get to the point where we had more work to continue. We are excited about where we are and to be able to support continued efforts, including the community engagement portions, how we can do more with the community to look at our recommendations and get that support. We are honored to be working alongside with you all to continue this work, and we appreciate that opportunity.
Thank you again.
Are there questions, comments?
I just have a comment. I don't know if anybody else has a comment or whatever, but we've had changes. We've had struggles. We've had good work moving forward. But, you know, I have a great deal of respect for everybody around this table. I just feel like this thing moving forward, like these changes that keep happening, like we're being asked to do something on a timeline that, again, is arbitrary. Like, I don't know where that timeline got pulled from. But this affects that work. This affects that work. And I'm not speaking very loudly because I will get impassioned, and some of my passion seems to offend people. But this work is really important. It's really important to me. And I appreciate every single person around this table that's here to do the work. I really do. But I really need you to understand, I can't say what's in everybody's heart. I don't know what's in your heart. But I know what's in my heart. And I know why I tried to pull this table together. And I know what it means to be black in this city just like everybody else does. To never get a shot. To never have a chance. To never have anything go your way. To have stuff taken away from you. I get it. So please don't let my passion for these issues get you in a certain way that you feel in some kind of way. It's literally about my love for my people in the city, y'all around this table. and how we move forward is really important. It's more important than just like hitting a timeline that somebody pulled out their yin yang and us wanting to adhere to it because we're trying to be respectable. I don't care about respect. I care about my people. I care about my people. I don't know I can't make y'all feel what I feel. I can't. Like when I was on council, I can't make y'all feel what I feel when I'm in those meetings. When I'm the only person in the room. That's not like that anymore. But I believe I had a part to do with that. And I believe we have a part to do with what's gonna happen next. Like when we leave this table, I think DeWanda said it at the last meeting or the meeting before last, when we walk out these doors and all of this stuff sunsets, nobody's gonna care who was on staff at the time. Whether we pass or fail on this or this thing succeeds, they're gonna know your name. Your name is attached to this. Your legacy is attached to this. Your family history is attached to this. All the people that came before you that had to struggle. A lot of y'all got stories that I only hear from my parents, that I have to read in a history book. And I don't know what that's like. Just like I can't make you feel my passion, I don't know what it's like to be in that period that you can recollect through direct inference in it, to just being there. So what I'm saying is, we got a lot of work to do, and it don't stop. Do anybody ever ask the police force to stop? Do anybody ever ask them to stop working on the water, or the streets, or the parks, or helping people find homes? And I'm not saying this process is gonna stop, but all of a sudden we got like this brick wall coming up in front of us. We not there.
Keith, let me move us along a bit. This news is sudden, and I received it only at 11 o'clock, and I'm still processing. So to ask you to immediately process is unfair. It's just unfair. But I'm going to do that anyway by asking you for comments, particularly, but let's let it stew a bit. And we have on our agenda under item 6, B, roundtable check-in with commissioners. Maybe after covering through some of the agenda items, maybe we can put our passion with our reason and talk about next steps in the light of this new news. Is that all right? Yeah. Keith's passion is not contagious. It's bred in us. So I'm asking at the end of the meeting, during our normal roundtable check-in, to use your time to address what we have just learned or whatever else you want to talk about during the 3 minutes. And of course, we'll need to work out next steps. But without objection, I'd like to move to cover old business. Item 2A, data request update. Say that again. Who does that? Yeah, let's do
Do we have somebody who could help get this up on the screen?
Request number.
Roxanne should be working on it.
She can come back to.
There we go. All right. So just a quick update on where we stand with all of the data requests. I'm going to kind of quickly show you the dashboard, and on the next page there's a link, and you should have a PDF version of this presentation with all the links so that you can go to this dashboard on the next page. So we are just about to 3/4 of the requests that have come in are done. Of the remaining requests, about a third of them have already been labeled as not possible to deliver, and then 18% of all of them, or about 2/3 of the open requests, are still being worked on. And you can see the breakdown here on this on the dashboard at the top of this page, how they break out into research versus public data, et cetera, and where they are in terms of status. You can also see it broken down for each of the individual areas. If you go into the dashboard itself, let me find my cursor, you'll see that just hovering over any of these will give you detail about what each of these means. So, for example, you can see that for health and wellness requests, just under 44% were research, public data 44%, and so on. If you go down further on this page, you can see a breakdown of all completed requests with links to the data where appropriate. And then further down the page, you can see the status of all open requests as well. That's where you'll find the ones that are labeled can't be fulfilled, as well as the ones that are still in progress. So that's kind of the overall status. We're at about 3/4 done, working on the remaining 20%, a little under 20% that haven't been labeled as can't be fulfilled. And then I want to let Catherine talk a little bit. A lot of those are research, and that's been kind of the domain of Catherine and the
Hi, good evening, folks. Like Eric said, I'm just going to provide a little bit of an update on what we've been able to do. We're missing a photograph here, maybe it will load. Like Eric said, about 3/4 of the requests are completely finished. About a third of those that are not finished are not able to be fulfilled. Most of that is from the Criminal Justice IFA, and that is because it's data that we don't own or have access to. We put in requests to the state, and the state has essentially said, we aren't going to do that. There's a particular law about public records law that if they do not have a data set already put together, they are not required to provide it. So the state has basically stonewalled that data request. In light of a lot of these requests being pretty large and nebulous and having a lot of different pieces and parts, I've come to most of your IFA meetings recently to talk about the Zotero reference library that we've created. And unfortunately, that's not pulling up here.
should be able to go.
Maybe I can, yeah, just open it this way.
Bring it up directly.
And I want to make sure that y'all get the right PDF of this slideshow at the end, because there are some important links in there. But most of you know and have seen this before. This is our Zotero reference library, and Zotero is basically a place where we can keep a lot of citations together and provide access to digital scans of documents, links to websites and journal articles and things like that. So I won't go too into detail here, other than to say that you all have access to this. There is a link to it at the very bottom of the Reparations dashboard. And the IFA facilitators and city and county staff have the ability to share some of these digitized documents with you upon request. You all have complete access to go in and see what all of these items are. You can follow most of the links, but you'll have to ask either county staff, like myself, or your IFA facilitators for some of these documents you may not be able to download. On the PDF of let's see, I lost it. On the PDF of the presentation, which we might get back to, there we are. There will be a link to a video that we recorded with the IFA facilitators showing them how to get into the library, how to use it, and that will be really helpful information for you all too. Like I said, I'm missing a slide here, but Special Collections, me and my staff are here for you all if you need it. We are your local public archives and resource library, reference library, and we have an additional staff member right now to help us work on research and reference requests for you all. Two of us are really well versed in local history and are able to, help you all in whatever ways that you need. So you can always email us if you have other questions about about, we keep calling it hard data, you can definitely reach out to Matt Baker or Eric and his team, and you've got a handy dandy link here in the presentation to send an email.
Questions, comments? Dick?
I do. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for your work, both of you. We do appreciate it. A question about accessibility. This limited access to IFA facilitators only for right now. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, and that is because of the limitations of the software. I can only have so many people registered as members, but the group is public. Anybody could view it and see all of what is in there. And because everything has really rich metadata and descriptions, you'll be able to check and see if that's something you'd really like to see. So there's nothing in there that's just dropped in without explanation. Everything has at least a paragraph describing what the data or resource is.
And the second part, is the performance auditor going to have access to these databases?
Yes, if by the Stop the Harm auditors, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, they already do.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? Oh, yeah, please.
This is Tiffany Debelow here. I just need some clarification on the document of the information request fulfillment progress. So you mentioned here the percent outstanding by focus area, and then there's a key. But then on the top, it says percent incomplete, 19% all requests. So does that mean that so we're just missing 19% of each IFA? Or is it based on the legend that you have at the bottom, which says the outstanding by focus area percent?
Right, so the 19% is a percentage of all the requests across all the IFAs. Down here, well, let me go to the actual dashboard. So these are not, we didn't break out in this dashboard what percentage of each of the IFAs is in what status. What is here is kind of what kind of requests, so whether it's public data or research or sensitive data. But the percentage incomplete, the 18% up here, was 19% when that screenshot was taken for the presentation. 1% progress has been made since then. But that, the 18% is across all of the IFAs, and it's all of the requests that are still being worked on.
And so, thank you for that, because that is clarifying. But you're also seeing that there's barriers, even though we went with an outside source to collect data, you're finding yourselves hitting a brick wall as well.
So some kinds of data, if it exists in the city or the county, it's being fulfilled if possible. But a lot of the criminal justice data comes out of systems that are run by the state. And for all of that, the only way to get the data is to request it from the state, which we have done, and they basically said no.
Okay, thank you.
Dwayne?
Dwayne McAfee. So my question is, the requests that are being denied for whatever reason, are you labeling those with an explanation as to why you weren't able to get this data for whatever reason?
So, not in that spreadsheet. I think that's a question to go back to the IFAs. But one of the things we welcome you to do is, if you have follow-on questions to clarify any of these, go ahead and submit those. It's not in the dashboard itself, and I don't have the information personally right now. But that, any of those, we can provide the explanation for why it's being done.
So whenever you're being told that the information's not available, I would like it documented so that we can look at that and see where you requested this information and was not able to get it.
Okay, I will take that back. We'll figure out how to get that done.
Salam Anaya. Mr. McAfee, I do believe it's in the smart sheet. So when we pull up the smart sheet and we're looking at our recommendations, it's telling us what the county or city is able to fill, and then it's telling us in another, there's notes that say that it's state.
Yeah, so, but I feel that's generic, and I don't want generic. I want from them exactly where the brick wall hit.
Right, I hear you.
So we'll make sure that you're right, Salah, the information is in the smart sheet, and if there's additional clarification of that needed, then we'll work through that and get it to you.
Thank you.
There are other questions or comments for the city?
Just one last question, Lasanda McPeters here. Do y'all have a timetable on when you think that you may complete data request?
I do not. I kind of got brought in at the last minute. So I'll let you speak to any of the ones that are on your team.
Sure, so I can speak for my special collections staff. I can't speak for Matt, unfortunately, he's not been able to be here with us this evening, but for what my team and I have put together, the bulk of it is out and available, and otherwise we're here for assistance with that. My team and I have gone through every request on the Smart Sheet and been able to either directly answer that with some resource in the Zotero library, or we have gathered additional resources, sort of getting the spirit of the question where we may not be able to offer an exact answer, but offering you all resources that might be able to help answer that question. So for special collections staff, everything that we've been able to do is pretty much finished. And as we find additional resources, like today, I just learned about a really interesting project at UNC Chapel Hill that is identifying Jim Crow laws using artificial intelligence. So I made sure to add that to the Zotero library today. So it's done for the most part. The heavy lifting is done on these research questions. And so what we've done as librarians is put the resources, put the ball in your court, so to speak. And now here we are waiting for you all to ask us any clarifying questions or for additional information.
And for the remainder, we had a meeting with the data team a week ago, and it was at 18%. It's now at 15%? So some of this is just kind of working through, but we need to get a better estimate on the ones that are remaining. I just don't have that information tonight.
Eric, at the summit, the director of the Carter Development Group, the folk who are doing the Stop the Harm research, mentioned to me that he's also having some issues and is waiting for data. I don't know how closely y'all are working, but it may prove beneficial touching base with him.
Okay, and we are certainly, anything that ties into both of those, we're obviously cooperating with them.
Yes. Thank you. Other questions more? We move to the next agenda item. Thank you, y'all. Thank you. Education. The global accountability recommendation.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Mayor Slavender. I'm here to provide a bit of an overview of the accountability recommendation, and then what I'm hoping we can do is workshop it in real time to refine it, not so much answer questions about it unless necessary. We can. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to clarify about this accountability recommendation is that the Education IFA specifically has one that is just for education. It has a set of metrics, recommendations, bodies that we want to hold accountable. It is specific to education, and this global accountability recommendation came out of that discussion of like, well, who would hold all of that? Like, whose responsibility would that be? Just to follow the logic of it. It's from that wondering that these global accountability metrics were created, and this mechanism that would hold the IFA recommendations, accountability measures specifically. I understand that almost every IFA has an accountability sort of recommendations for specific bodies and entities that govern your work. Does that make sense? Can I just have a show of hands if that part makes sense? Thank you. Okay. So for the basis of this global recommendation, the group proposed that there was a permanent reparations accountability. We got feedback that it wasn't a task force, so we switched it to agency. Would be put into place, that there would be continuous accountability, and that the monitoring of progress on any reparations recommendation would come through that body of people. So this one entity would holding all of our recommendations constant there. Thank you. The stop alarm aspect of this recommendation is that the agency shall have oversight, voting power and oversight responsibilities on initiatives, construction, spending, etc. that impacts Black residents and Black communities in Asheville and Buncombe County, such that if new highways were being built or proposed, it would have to go through this body for support. The agency shall be charged with developing a review process for the harms that are currently happening, providing ongoing funded assessment of harm review and updates, so that equity audit, those sort of things that are coming out of this body would come out of this agency. The proposal is that we would hire 5 people, 1 to represent each IFA, 1 director, and 2 admin and technical assistants for the maintaining of this agency. We took the feedback of hiring or retaining an attorney. The employees of the task force or agency cannot be employed by the city or county government. This is not a city or county board, and that agency members would be appointed by, at least in this first iteration, you all, the members of the Community Reparations Commission. Again, the note here is that each IFA will have to develop their own specific accountability structure that will be the charge of the person hired to do that work. Each IFA recommendation has to have an assessment mechanism that can be monitored to assess improvement. So say, for instance, we have education metrics, we have specific metrics for literacy, proficiency that we have outlined so that we know what we're looking for. We know what our levers of change are and how we'll know if our recommendations are having its intended impact. The governance. The agency will have regulatory powers over funding provided by the city and county government and control over funding from any non-government sources of income. The accountability agency has the power to recommend people to councils, boards, commissions. We understand that the city and county have to promote people through their own process, but this board or this agency would be the sort of place that we would vet and make sure that folks understood reparations assessment before going on to those boards. We also mentioned a formation of an oversight committee and a community accountability board. The oversight committee and community accountability board are nested under this agency. The oversight committee has responsibility for all recommendations from all IFAs. We have representatives from each IFA chosen from participating commission members. The purpose of that body is fidelity and implementation of the intent of recommendations, especially anything that was structural or systemic. So we know that as things get enacted and implemented, questions come up. This board needs to communicate with you all, members of the commission, commissioners, to make sure that they're enacting recommendations with your intent, the intent with which they were written. The Community Accountability Board would be made up of non-commissioner community members. These representatives should have a level of expertise in each IFA, and the purpose is to hold the government account manager responsible, guarantee the success of implementation and forward progress on all recommendations, especially anything that's community-based initiatives or programming. And then there's some considerations for you all to discuss, the level of city and county involvement. There's belief that they should be involved from a law perspective, but that any money provided should have community voice and input. So there's like levers and there's boundaries that need to be set around the level of city and county involvement. There's also a need for this to be a corporation or a nonprofit, to have continuous involvement, to employ a person who keeps the recommendations and accountability going. And that the Community Accountability Board is separate from the city and county. Again, there's just really this desire for there to be clear boundaries between these bodies. And then, as quite poignantly connected to this last presentation, that any sort of lack of data or inability to get information that is needed has to be a part of this accountability board to figure out how to rectify that moving forward. Especially local data and questions that cannot be answered locally. We need to make sure that in 5-10 years that this data is not still lost upon us. And so this accountability board needs to work with the given entities to make sure that that is no longer the case, and potentially petition the state for whatever has happened with that. But that's fresh information. With that, I will pause to take any notes on this recommendation to further refine it so that it feels like something that can hold the work of your given bodies.
I have a question and a comment. I was thinking about, I guess when I came on board, power really being given back to the various neighborhood groups, including people who live in publicly assisted housing. And one of the things that hadn't been done was to build these people's capacity to operate a corporation, since they're the most impacted people. And also, what we've done in economic development is to develop pro forma cash flows that would put this C Corp or this nonprofit corporation together as 501c3, so that power can really go back to each neighborhood and have them, because they've been the most impacted, including people from publicly assisted housing. So I wonder if we would have room for some other global accountability mechanisms that could be put in place, because it's called community-rooted management. And so what that means is that you take the time to train the people who are most impacted and you pay them. People are smart. Our people are smart. They've just been denied opportunity. So I'd like to look at trying to put some of this back in each of the legacy black neighborhoods. There are about 6 of them, including people from publicly assisted housing, and put a staff together. Either they hire, but they surely do command and control the resources, and hire people who can help them. And those of us who put this together can go ahead and step on out the way and go back to what we were doing.
No, I think Dwayne had a question first.
I had a question. My question is, existing policy and organizations outside of the city and the county, how does this agency bring all of that together instead of, because there's a lot of stuff that we already have. The city and the county, private, it's a lot of stuff out there already. And my question is, how does this help connect the dots with all of the policies and agencies and programs that's designed to provide that support for the community?
My question would be back to you. How do you see this agency pushing all these things together, right? So there's a lot of agencies, organizations doing disparate work. The goal of having an overarching body is sort of saying none of our recommendations, they fit in together. Economic development, education have to remain in lockstep with one another. Housing and criminal justice, they can't be spread across the city on the actual recommendations. So with that sort of thought process in play, the same would be true about our community partners, right? Like we should all be nested in one place. So in that sense, my question back to you is, what should the role of this agency be in pulling together the different resources and community building that's already happening, including the neighborhoods?
I think we need to create a framework throughout. I think if this framework is solid, that we use this as an example on how we can connect the dots with different organizations and individuals. Because if this process is a new process, and if we haven't validated, if the existing policies and organizations that was doing similar work or work like this haven't been able to get their collective momentum together to actually make the needed change for our communities, to create a new process or a new organization designed to do the same without getting that existing momentum to help propel it to success, I think it's going to be challenging to pull it off. I think there's enough. That's what I'm stopping right there. Yeah.
If you're able to see that, please make sure I reflect what you said clearly on my
And
screen.
so, I think we talked about like the legacy neighborhoods and how to connect the resources, but it's also reaching those that are out in the county who were living in the city and now are out in the county. This is a city and county initiative. Mm-hmm. And so I just don't want us to lose focus of those that are out in the county. I think about those that are in Swannanoa and Candler and Leicester and all these surrounding areas that can't afford to be in the city. And so also not limiting the scope of this group, the accountability task force, to also be inclusive of those county communities that are thriving, black communities.
So this isn't pinpointing like how to do any specifics or who is inclusive or who is not. Essentially, this framework, we all just discussed it to prepare and share with you all because it's to what it's saying, it's accountability. It's really looking at this group would be accountable for making sure that any ideas, any people, any organizations, community networking, etc., comes together and that the recommendations are done. We haven't listed any steps on how to do any of this. This is literally just a framework sharing, saying this is how we look as a structure for accountability to make sure that these recommendations don't stop and the harms are stopped. And we're asking for feedback to essentially say, do you agree with the structure? What's missing? Essentially, what needs to be added? What needs to be taken away? So the community aspect is very important. It's just that we're not really addressing the community aspect of it. We're addressing how to make sure that the work continues, not so much of the steps of getting there.
And I think having you have said all of that, I think that what we need to do now is make sure that the attorney is hired outside of the city, the county, so that we make sure that we're inside the law on everything that we're doing. And I think that will make the last part of your accountability.
Other comments, questions? May I offer one? I worked with in Los Angeles with the war on poverty, and community action programs were very similar in terms of being community rooted. And the ultimate conflict killed it because it wasn't articulated, the relationship between the community groups and the elected bodies. And so when the political perspective of the elected bodies went in a different direction, they put an X and defunded, deauthorized, and did not implement the things that were coming out of the communities. And so articulating the relationship early might help forestall that.
And to what extent, like what would you say?
Things that the neighborhoods wanted to be saying, continue to be done at the schools, for example. The example was capital improvements. And I know it sounds simple, but the neighborhoods wanted the asphalt taken off of playgrounds. You know, it's hard to play on asphalt. And the city found that expensive. They didn't want to do it. The political pressure from the community was not heavier than the political constituencies of the elected officials. And when it came down to removing the asphalt from the playgrounds, it didn't happen. And it killed the belief in community power to do anything. And so the relationship, I don't know, it's difficult to articulate it, but it needs to be articulated as far as it can go, of what actually can be done that is community rooted.
So I will share we just had our event at the YWCA, which was a good turnout, and at this station, I was essentially speaking on behalf of our IFA regarding it. Just quickly, the feedback on there is kind of what you said, Dr. Mullen, is that a lot of the community questions the authoritative powers that this group can actually have. And there was a lot of questions about the legislative challenge in order to actually either make recommendations or make sure people are put onto commissions or sign on. There was a lot of questioning on how much we can actually do as a body. And so what you're saying is repeatedly what we heard as far as feedback. I think Ms. D, you mentioned that as well. So Ms. Harrison, I think you're right as far as what we have, getting it back for an attorney to look at it, but that is one of the huge question marks as far as how much authoritative power does this body, can it have?
And one last, and I'm so sorry to interject, there is another proposal from the Economic Development Committee. We had someone from your group come, and we've got a think tank concept, but the community ultimately has a control of whatever happens. So that's a very vital part. We also have some cash flows and pro formas for that. We're happy to work in any capacity we can. Thank you.
I like what you said, Dee. Again, this is Tiffany Devereaux. For me, also, just looking at the education IFA and all the different IFAs, it's about alignment. So how much of in alignment are we with our recommendations?
More comments, questions? This is an ongoing discussion. This is helpful, I think.
So I'm kind of hearing a next step is perhaps the two IFAs, bringing them together and nesting them. So the community action board part of this, as Asanu mentioned, this is just a framework. It's just bodies. So if there's a community portion that's already developed, that can plug into, I think there's a recognition it has to be community, it has to be structural, and then someone has to hold it all. So if economic development has a community-based portion, that's absolutely perfect, plug in. Everyone, again, needs their own health and wellness-based recommendations for how we hold mission or whatever health body recommendations accountable. And no one will know that as well as you all do based upon your recommendations. So we have to write down specific to our IFAs, well, what questions are we wanting to continue to ask the school board or HCA? And whose responsibility will it be to continue to answer those questions after the duration of this commission ends? And how will we continue to engage community to make sure that the recommendations are in line with community need when this is in the hands of project managers or whomever who has to enact, years-long projects? There has to be a structure and a mechanism in place, else we all have jobs. We understand that if it's not living anywhere, it's not happening. So right now, none of this work, and there are 12 recommendations coming out of, IFA, education IFA alone, 12 packages of things that is not work that exists, well, some more or less. Who's gonna hold that? I urge you all to continue, developing things specific to your IFAs, letting us know how we can bolster and improve this. This really isn't antagonistic to anyone else's idea. It's just a nesting place.
May I offer one more? For each of the IFAs, but particularly for yours, and this is not a pushback, it's just another part of the framework, is the relationship between what we are recommending and the standing Asheville City schools, Montgomery County schools, where our children actually are.
Yep. Which is, this is why that recommendation, in the middle of writing all these recommendations, I think someone looked and said, who's gonna make them do all this stuff? That's how this came to be. Because what we understand is that the school boards are responsible for enacting the education of our youth. The curriculum, all of those decisions rest at the school board. We're going to need community advocacy and support consistently to hold the school boards accountable to these changes, to go to those meetings, to ensure that that's happening. It's not really in the purview of the city or the county to ensure that those things happen. We personally really deeply need an accountability structure, else it just won't go. And then there's the community aspect of it too. So we know that we need the support.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions, comments further? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Job well done.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, team.
So confident. So,
Good
but
job.
it's new business. The last item under old business is C, review survey results on projected timeline / the proposed resolution amendment extension that was tabled at the last meeting, pending further discussion. Is there further discussion? Is there a move to move it from the table? Yes, please.
I have a question specifically to Mr. Young in reference to if I understand your comments, Mr. Young, you're concerned about the item that we discussed. What I got from it was your concern about the timeline. The resignation of the project manager would have an effect on the timeline. Was that the essence of your concern?
So yes, the timeline has always been an issue as we've moved forward, but then this information came about and it kind of snowballed into more expedient outcome needs to happen.
So, and I'm just trying to understand your concerns so that we all know. So, after Ms. Edwards gave her statement, then the other members came in to say that they would continue this process for support. So are you saying then that the continuation, by Ms. Edwards stepping aside, that's going to affect the timeline even though these other members are going to continue the support?
I think so. I think so, just because we've had issues leading up to this, prior to that. So like, even though there's going to be a handoff, that doesn't negate the fact that I felt like issues were already present. And we just heard a great presentation on an accountability piece that we're going to need to be actionable on. And we still have to put forth all the IFA's recommendations in a very compressed time frame. I just feel like it adds more pressure.
Thank you.
I just didn't quite understand. I understand that she believing, was somebody going to take over her duties, so to speak? Because the other people that were up here, they have other duties, right?
Yeah.
Or do they?
So
I mean, how will that work?
I think that might be something that they have, we all know. That'll be, well, we kind of know. So it'll be something that they could speak to. Who would be stepping up? The question on the table is who would be stepping up to take over her duties? Is the questions that is on the table. So would a city or county staff like to answer that, a facilitator or someone?
I had a question, is her duties were administrative from get-go. And she said she would still remain as the administrative coordinator. Now, I guess we haven't done an analysis of what her duties were as far as setting the agenda and doing the administrative task and making sure everybody was paid. If we've got most of these IFAs, do y'all have your recommendations? Because I know 3 of the ones that I'm involved with all have IFA recommendations and spreadsheets to go with most of them. So, I mean, it would come down to what do you do the work? You know, we put here to work, and if it means us stepping up to do some more work, we need to step up and do some more work. That's all I got to say.
I think part of the question is this work was being structured in the project management style, and that those seats are empty. And so I think the question, if I'm not mistaken, is clarity on who steps into these seats to make sure that the work we've done is being seen.
Those of
am I
us who are
correct on
able
that?
to work with our
Yes.
project managers can do so.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help. If it takes spreadsheets or whatever it takes. I don't need recognition, I just need to get the work done. Because if we are here for the community, we need to start acting like it. That's it. That's period.
MZ?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mind if?
Okay, yeah.
Please, Bobette. I'm sorry.
This is Bobette Mays. My concern is, I agree with Dee, and I agree with anybody else that says that we just need to step up and do the work. Now look around this room and see who's here. If everybody came, and I'm not gonna point fingers or to call names, if you came to the IFA, if you came to the meetings and sat down with the meat of doing the work, we would have it, because we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Most of they are, and our facilitators are doing great work. I don't know why we would need, if we needed more time, it wouldn't be anything but 6 months to get it off the table and get it going. I don't believe that we need to spend more time with people don't want to come if they're not here. And I'm probably one of the, I don't know, I read this and I know what it says about participation and about you being here. And when you have your IFA meetings, the people that's in your group should be there. It should be where you sit down and you think about what are you gonna do? What are you gonna plan? That's what we're here for. We're here to work. You're supposed to study this. They didn't just give us this and have us to sign our name for nothing. But we have to be there. You have to be present. And if you're not present, it's got to be a reason why you're not present. But I'm not in favor of doing a lot more time, because a lot of time is always we're wasting time tonight, just even bringing this out. Since I've got this, and I'm gonna say this, because I feel bad. I really cannot engage in this because I feel bad because we put an agenda item up at the front when it really wasn't that important. And it changed the whole mood for me for this meeting. And it's not personal, it's just I've always been told to be respectful. And it didn't have to happen until when it was time for it to come up on the agenda because somebody was hurt. I'm not hurt. You know, we're going to move on. We're going to do the work because she's gone because we've been doing the work and she hasn't been here. But the way that it was conducted, I feel bad. And so I'm kind of like missed out on a lot of stuff. I apologize to education because I missed out on your presentation because I couldn't rotate off of the events that had happened of how we did someone and how it was done at the beginning instead of the end because it did not reflect or change our agenda. Only thing, we just didn't have a survey report. So I'm just saying, why do we need more time when we spend all this time right now? And people want to go home at 8 o'clock. They have kids. They've been at work all day. Then you ask us to stay longer. So I'm just kind of, so excuse me. I'm just a little hurt. And I have always been taught to be respectful. And this in here talks about how we're supposed to respect. And so that's just.
I appreciate that.
So the timeline is like the timeline for this process, not for the night. So hopefully we getting out of here at 8. I just want to clear that up. I'm just saying, we getting out of here at 8. Yeah. I just want to throw that out there, but the timeline has been for the last 2 months, and if you, I think you said you watched the videos, the recaps of these meetings for the last 2 months. The timeline has been a topic of conversation. There was a survey that went out that all commission members, the post survey, if you responded to the survey, you was able, and it was asked that commission members please respond to this. It talks about the timeline. So we did get responses, and a majority of people thought it might be good to have an extension or to at least have the conversation. And so that's what we are trying to do, is have the conversation around any type of extension of this timeline process. Not, we haven't put a time on it, 2 years, 10, none of that. We just saying like,
This is
what that's, oh, so the resolution that's actually on the table is the one that Keith presented.
That's right.
And it does have a 2-year timeline.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the question is, the commission was set up by both the city and the county. They're the ones that actually pay and support this commission. So they should be at the table to discuss a timeline also, because they're going to have to pay, if people around here agree to that, they're going to have to supplement whatever pay of extension time that we're talking about doing. Would that make sense?
Yes, it does.
When I actually asked them, City Council, County Commission, and almost to a person, they said the time frame is up to us.
They would, let me make sure I understand what you're saying. The city and the county both are in agreement whatever timeline we come up with?
Whatever time we needed to consider for reparations is the time we would.
I'm just making sure that I
That's what they
understood
said.
that. Okay.
But at $10 an hour, 15 hours a week, it probably won't break. It probably won't break the budget.
I think you should say that again. It's quite significant that they were on board. You just say that again. And reinforce that the city and county have offered to embrace whatever time frame we create.
So they behind the process. They are like Brendan, you hear the staff say all the time, and I think Christine articulated it in her speech. They are in support of this process, and they want to see us succeed.
Okay.
So whatever it takes for us to be successful in this process, they are willing to support within reason. I'm gonna throw it within reason because we can be way out there sometimes. So we don't do that.
I'm not through with the question.
This is part of
This is another part of my question.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so if the city is okay with doing this, how in the world are we going to implement time management to make this work within a new time frame that you're talking about. If you have not succeeded in doing it within the time frame that you have done, how is it going to look different in an extension of that? Because I'm trying to figure out if you give more time, it's more procrastination. You stick within a time frame, you're actually getting things done if you're set it to a deadline.
I'm coming, Brenda. The context within which I asked that is that we were looking at the end of the resolutions passed by the city and county. We were looking at the disparities end. And I said there are a number of points that precede the consideration of closing disparities that we have not even begun to address, ranging from enslavement through segregation, through mass incarceration. We barely touched on urban renewal. There were a number of things that we needed the specifics on and how to proceed with it. And they said to me on several occasions, you all take the time you need. That's what they said. My question to you is that your energy levels, I don't think, match the task that's before us. And that's okay. If the structure matches the task in front of us, we can find people to sit in those seats and to do the work.
Okay, start over.
To sit in seats?
No, if our energy is failing us because we've been going full steam for a year and a half now, and it looks like it'll be 2 years, that's a lot to ask for you to consider going even further, to consider new areas of considerations for reparations. But if we have a structure in place, finding individuals who will volunteer or can be appointed to those positions seem to be the way to carry forth the work.
When you say structure, what does that mean? Does that mean that you're going to chart a 501c3, or what does that mean?
That's exactly.
Just more of the same.
That's exactly why the IFA education becomes important.
This is why we put those global recommendations
Yes.
together from the economic development. We talked about at least Seminary Corporation and all of that, because only that can do the work that is required.
That's the decision that we made. Exactly.
Can I do a disclaimer?
Yes, please, y'all.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Before you start? Let me just say this. I
And
think
you
we've
are?
all.
You are, what's your name?
Bobette Mays. We have addressed the harm, have we not? In all of our IFAs, we've gone back from slavery. We have gone all the way back to the beginning, and we've come all the way up to now, to where we need to go forward. I would think most of our IFAs, if you've been in our IFAs, you will know that we have done that process. So what I'm saying is, I don't want to start over or to do more time. That means you got to start all over again. So you'll be sitting right here a year and a half from now with some new people talking about the same thing. New people. I'm through.
Please. Brenda, DK.
Good evening, DK West, Assistant County Manager. I just want to make a clarification. I appreciate the Vice Chair saying within reason. Our direction that we've been given from the County Commission is that the April timeline is not a hard stop, right? If there is a reason or justification for an extension, however long, we can take that forward to our board and our city council if you all determine if you all vote to do that. I will say that it's going to have to be a pretty detailed, significant justification to justify 2 years. That's the question we've been asked. What does 2 years mean? And so I haven't seen what does 2 years mean. What will happen that has not happened in the last 2 years that will happen going forward? So to take that forward to the county commission, I think there has to be a significant amount of detail to justify that kind of request.
And we ditto that. We're gonna need some kind of detail about what looks different. Is there a different way you wanna work? That kind of stuff. We tried suggesting maybe using this time to do some working and then some reporting out. If that didn't work, what other suggestions would you have to do that? But you're gonna have to give us a lot of detail in order to do something past, I would say, 3 to 6 months more.
Ultimately, it's the city council and the county commission's decision to make about the term, but that is based on the direction and information we have. That's what would need to be shared to justify an extension.
Right.
Keith.
The question, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, there are many things that can justify that, but, one thing that kind of sits at the top is the community. Like, we sitting in this bubble and we like, oh, we done did this work and we got all this, we gonna put this forward. Do the community know what you put forward? Do they agree with what we done? Like, we sitting here at these tables, and I'm gonna use this term very loosely because I don't know how it affects people's mental. But we sitting around this table like we the talented 10th, and we get to make decisions for everybody. We are not the talented 10th. We are a portion of the community that needs to engage with the rest of the community so they can see what we got going on. We don't just go in a vacuum and do this work and then all of a sudden present this information to the council and the commission and then the community like, what the hell happened to us? Y'all did all this stuff and y'all didn't come to us? Like, so we gotta have community involvement and engagement thoroughly. And I don't mean like having 1 or 2 meetings where like you set up your own meeting and nobody shows up, but you go into the community and you engage them on what they're doing. You go do, when the community is having something and there's already a bunch of people there for stuff that they want to do, plug in and make sure that everybody knows what you're doing. Not just the people in the IFAs who showed up and do the work. And some of us been doing the work before the IFA even got created.
So, please, 1 second. This leads into community engagement, actually. We haven't finalized the timeline, but I'm gonna throw it in there because it is a proposal that's on the table. And it is for consideration. It's actually a draft. And so I have had the great honor between the last 2 meetings to work with some commission members and the RJC team. And I must say, they already have, like, I've stressed every meeting, every time I speak about community engagement and the importance of it to this process. There is not a reparations commission or group across this country that is not looking at community engagement as a main factor of this process, right? So I want to make sure that we are on top of our stuff because we haven't been. Like, the reality is our word of mouth to our networks of for people who we talk to share information is not enough. And it excludes a great part of this community. It excludes a lot of black people. I'm going to be intentional with my words because we're talking about black people. And it excludes black people. This process has been very exclusionary, and it's not intentional. It's an open meeting. We have public IFA meetings. All of the things is noticed. But I don't go to the city website. I don't go to, like, just to be real, we have not exhausted our resources to make sure that we are touching as many black people as possible with this process and getting their input on our recommendations because we are not. It's not about just us that's sitting in this room, and we're not taking this paternalistic mindset to say that, oh, we felt this was best for the community and run with that. That's not okay. That's the same thing that white people did to us for years, forever. So with that being said, I hope y'all have had a chance, because y'all have had it since last week, to review.
This is, before we move on to the next agenda item, I need to understand your favor for, this is under old business C, and it's the proposed resolution, extension, and vote. Are you prepared to vote?
For an extension.
I'm prepared to vote. I don't know about everybody else.
No.
Is there a motion to vote?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
Question?
Concerns?
The motion is
Question.
to accept the proposed resolution on the extension.
Joyce has
How
a
long are you
question.
talking
Just a
about,
second, I'm
Mr.
coming.
Chairman?
I'm coming. It was in your, not this packet, but it was in last month's packet. A copy of the resolution that was proposed.
How long is it?
Ms. Harrison got a question.
Joyce Harrison. Question is, This resolution that you're trying to put up for a vote, I just heard 3 to 6 months from city and the county. This resolution says 2 years.
It says 2 years, that's right.
We need to change the resolution that you're talking about presenting. Because your resolution that you're asking us to vote on says 2 years.
That's
If
right.
the city and county both are saying 3 to 6 months, why are you gonna vote on something that says 2 years?
Well, they actually said if you want
No, no,
something
no, they
after 3 to 6 months, that you need to make sure that you have it detailed as to why you want it past 3 to 6
That's not
months.
what
we said.
What y'all said,
The
no?
extension would need a detail just from you guys about
Oh,
what does
any
that look
extension,
like going forward.
So we're not prepared.
That's what I'm saying. You can't
So
vote on
what
this
about
until
the
we
6
change that
months?
resolution to be
I-
specific to what they're saying.
I'm going to have to push back on that. The city and county really can't control our discussions.
That's right.
They can control the funding.
I mean,
I'll tell
yes,
you
they
that
can.
now.
But
And
the
then people
idea
don't take
of the
it serious.
details that go with this resolution, they're kind of locked into the motion unless
You think
unless
people
it's
are
amended.
actually gonna take us seriously doing what we're doing? I wouldn't.
2 years.
I would
I'm
not.
just-
I don't.
I think that.
MC?
Take a seat past them, sir. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, Lord.
May I recognize
MC?
MC?
I do have a comment.
Please.
There's a discomforting assumption, it's a dangerous undertone that I'm hearing, that the commission is not doing the work, that we're procrastinating. I've sat in 2 and 3 IFA groups, and everyone is doing work.
Yes.
A timeline has been proposed by the city and the county that's not working. So rather than calling into the restraints of the timeline, we're calling into question the effort of the commissioners.
Yeah.
If people feel as if they want to do something else, then I would suggest you go and do something else. And put into place a mechanism to have other minds come into the fold and join the conversation.
Well, you mean leave?
There are people that are committed to the process, and there are people that are concerned about putting forth proper recommendations. Not just putting forth recommendations that fit into a timeline that is clearly not working.
Right.
We can dig into the reasons as to why it's not working, but we're not doing that. We're leaning on this dangerous assumption that commissioners are not working. I push back against that dangerous assumption, and it really just falls into a traumatic type of response that we need to get out of. So I would recommend that we do extend the timeline, and we have a discussion on how best to extend the timeline, and then how to put the energy into the process via people that are committed to putting forth proper recommendations.
So are you talking about board replacement? Is that pretty much where we are now?
No, we're actually
Replacement?
we're talking about the extension of the
Timeline.
Oh,
resolution.
okay. So I didn't know. I
And
heard.
there's one more thing that I wanted to say. Sorry, Ms. D.
No problem.
The changes that we've heard about earlier today, what does that mean? What does that entail? I don't think that's been answered yet in detail. And I think that we need to know from the city and the county what that actually entails, because that does impact how we carry out the work. So we need to know how that impacts what we're doing so that we can be allowed our agency and make adjustments as necessary to move the process forward. We can no longer operate in blindness. We have to be transparent. The city and the county made a promise, and I trust them on their word. But we also have to challenge the city and the commission, the city and the county, to engage us, to respect the minds that are at this table, and best put forth the effort to make this thing work. We can't put on a facade, like this is real work. And your name, someone said it earlier, your name will be attached to this. So how you operate, on whatever side you're on, the history will tell where you stood.
That's right.
Resolution on the floor to extend the Community Reparations Commission for additional 2 years remains on the floor. Be prepared for a vote.
You got a second? Who's second?
Not ready,
I'm sorry?
not ready for the vote. Oh.
Is there a motion to vote?
When I came to this table, I brought my grandkids, my church, Southside neighborhood, city of Asheville, Buncombe County, because I've lived in Buncombe County now for 40 years. And so when they asked me to consider this, I'm like, okay, I got to take everybody to the table. And I brought everybody to the table. From personal to kids. In fact, one of my grandkids will be here in 10 years to see what we did. That's just going to be one of her assignments, to come and take a look at. And I think the third stop she's going to make is the Reparation Committee. Does it still exist? Did we have an audit? Whatever did we do? But somewhere we have to make some recommendation. And it sounds like a lot of the IFAs are already there. Now, it might not be the perfect recommendation, but we're headed that way. And I'm of the opinion, I don't mind extending the timeline, but one of the things that says, I don't want to go back and forth now. If we extend the timeline, what is our goal? How are we going to bring the people that we keep saying that are not at the table? How are we going to get them here? How are we going to get them here?
So that brings us back to this.
If they haven't been here by now, how do we now change something so that we can get them to the table? I'm bringing them to the table by talking to them everywhere I go. And one of the questions I ask everybody, every group I'm in front of sometime, I'm like, what say ye reparation? And I'm getting comments from people that have never been to this meeting. And I've asked some people, I was with a group the other day, and I said, what say you reparation? They just looked at me like, oh, no. And they kept on going, whatever they were talking about. I'm like, okay, that didn't mean nothing to him. But, so how are we going to get the people to the table? That's the first question I have. Or do we have more public meetings? Do we have, like, education, IFA had their meeting last night and people attended? Do we ourselves attend our IFA meeting?
There you go.
Right, so.
Thank you.
So are we amending the resolution?
One more.
All right, Steve Burris here.
Yes, ma'am.
I think before we take a vote, Ms. Norman's question was never answered. We sort of jumped over it. And I think that's important to know. What are we going to do? Do we get a new project manager? Do we go forth with everything the way it is? Ms. Norman, did you understand?
No, I don't think it was a full answer.
I didn't hear.
Because I don't know all of her duties. I would like to know them, and who's going to do her duties and how they're going to be carried out. And how will that affect us for doing what we need to do?
So I think the city and county go speak to that.
I'm not going to speak in detail because we are still working out everything, but we have a high-level plan. We'll be meeting as a city and county next week, but also we're adding additional staff on the city side. And the young lady who left, Bernicia Crawford, has agreed to facilitate your meetings moving forward. So we do know that part. We're not going to leave you hanging.
As far as
any questions?
You're not out of place at all. I mean, this is as of 11 o'clock this morning.
Well, we found out 11.
If I can just add also, most of you all know the work happens at the IFA level, and all of your IFA facilitators stood up and they spoke about their commitment to the project. Christine's work was mostly administrative, getting agendas together and things of that sort, and facilitating these meetings. So we do have to sit and just map it all out, write it all out, and document it, but we don't expect that will impact. With Bernicia coming in to help facilitate and also participating on agendas.
But I'm gonna put off just for a second. Put off just for a second. It doesn't appear as though a vote is ready.
No.
And I think that the next agenda item will help add to that consideration. Duana,
There was a motion and a first and a second.
I know.
Any questions?
And we still have questions.
Then we'll have to vote. All those in favor of passing the resolution as it stands, and if you don't have a copy of it, it's in your packet from the September meeting. But it does say 2 years. All those in favor of passing this motion, would you please raise your hand?
What's the motion?
2, 3, 4. Question.
Oh, he got a question. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I thought
What is the motion to it?
Okay, go ahead, MZ, sorry.
Pass it with amendment, is that gonna be another option?
Pass it with an
I
amendment.
just wanna know before I vote.
That's
No, it's
really,
already written.
it's already written. I mean, it can be amended, but that amendment have to be a second and it have to be articulated. I don't know what you're saying. I don't know
So
what
it
the
can be
amendment.
amended after it's voted on?
No, not after this one.
What's your amendment?
Propose an amendment
You
to
can,
it.
But you'd
Yeah,
have to
what's your
articulate it
amendment?
before it's
My
voted.
amendment that it goes to December 2020.
for
2024. That's my amendment.
I would accept the friendly amendment.
Can I add this
Yeah,
part?
question.
Could we agree to,
I'm gonna put the monkey rings.
could we vote on the desire to have an extension? We don't define it yet. And since the city and county have stated that they will need detail for us to be granted that we in this moment acknowledge that we feel that we need an extension, and then we come back and define that extension
It's already
at the next
defined.
round.
It's already written and defined.
Yeah, it's on the floor. So the amendment was for the changing of the time frame from 2 years to December
Can you all speak
2024.
So the
Everyone can hear.
amendment-
Say it again.
And there's some clarification, there's clarification needed on this side. Ms. Norma is not clear on what's on the floor and what's being voted on. So if we could clarify
Yeah,
that for her,
I'm
please.
deliberately hesitating reading the entire resolution.
Just the motion, what are we voting on?
This motion that we're voting on, there was an amendment
To
to
extend
the
it.
original resolution for 2-year extension. The amendment is suggesting a date for December 2024. A year?
Yeah, I got it.
I
Yeah,
have a question. Oh, I can't do a question.
so it's clarification,
This is Bobby Mayor.
clarification.
If we take it to December 2024, what if the city and county says that they don't see a reason for that?
Well, the follow-up, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the reason for the follow-up is to provide those reasons.
Okay, we'll be
details.
able, so
Yeah.
see, we missed it. I didn't hear. I didn't hear him say that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Stop laughing. I'm about to ask you.
Okay, Joyce Harrison, and I'm gonna put another monkey wrench out here.
Sorry.
The resolution that you are putting on the table was not followed by proper protocol.
No.
That agenda, that resolution should have come directly to the executive committee or the executive staff before it was passed out to the rest of us. You should have vetted it before it got to us. That was not happening. That did not happen. So all this talk and conversation that we are having should have come through and talked about with the city and the county before it came to us. So I propose that you guys go back and talk to the city and the county, bring that proper resolution back to the table so that it can be.
I'm gonna have to push back on that. You remember the proposal, you never voted on.
We never voted on it, and he passed it out at the meeting with nobody else that's sitting in that room but him.
The next meeting, we did not
It
consider
was
it.
on the agenda.
Had it gone
It
to
went to
the
the
proper
staff.
Went to
channel?
everybody, yeah.
No. Had it gone to the executive committee to be passed out to the rest of the committee?
It did go.
Yeah.
An email.
That's why, and it was on email, that's why it was in the packet last month.
If that's how
Did
it's
the
gonna
city and the
go
county
forward.
go through and approve that justice it was written
No,
for
but
2
they
years?
we did discuss it in our
Yeah,
meetings.
and we-
I don't know, like, they haven't vetted it to that extent. That's what this conversation is about right here. But it went through the same protocol, any other recommendation will come through this process. It did, that's why it was on the next agenda.
It was
So
on the next agenda because you passed it out to us.
No, it wasn't.
No.
No.
Okay.
No, it wasn't.
The agenda before that, it wasn't on, that's when he passed it out. And then the next agenda is when we actually sent it out to the public, it was noticed, and everything else to be discussed at that next meeting. That's what was last meeting. And so we pushed it to this meeting for the vote.
We did talk about it, yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it was noticed and everything. It was like after that first meeting, it goes through the
Yeah,
process.
it went through the process.
All right.
It went through the process, but we have, the motion on the floor is to vote on the amendment, the
I'm
change.
sorry,
The vote on the floor is to amend.
Yeah, I just have one quick question.
Please.
We take this vote tonight, but she stated it has to be approved with justifications. So if we make a vote that says, yeah, we want to go 2 years, how can we do that when it hasn't been voted on by the city and county? Maybe I'm not understanding. If we vote no, I guess we'll have to worry about it.
This vote would open the door for it to be
All right. I got you.
accompanied with
Okay.
details.
Thank you.
So we can't go forward without approving or disapproving. First up, the amendment to change the time from 2 years to
1 year.
to December 2024. If you're ready for that question, I'd be happy to entertain that.
I'll call for the vote.
Yes, all those in favor of changing the timeframe from 2 years to 2024, December 24, would you please raise your hand? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I got 13. All those opposed to changing the time frame through the amendment? We have 1, 2, 3. We have 3. Thank you. And now, the original question on the floor is the acceptance of the amendment, the resolution itself, which now reads, instead of 2 years, will end in December of 2024. If you're ready for the question, I would love to ask it. All those in favor of this resolution with the amended time frame, would you please raise your hand? All those in favor of this new resolution with the time frame, raise your hand.
Just a quick reminder, alternates cannot vote.
3, 4,
Okay?
5, 6, 9, 10. All those opposed to the resolution, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3,
You didn't vote at all.
4. I got 4. Resolution is passed.
Can you
With the
give me the
amended
numbers, Dr.
timeframe
Mullin?
of- I'm sorry?
How many were in favor?
10 were in favor, 4 were not.
Thank you.
I did not ask for extensions. Jeez.
Oh, you want the first vote too?
I already have that one. But did alternates vote during that one?
Yeah, it was 12 and 3.
You can subtract 1.
Okay, so community engagement, next thing on the agenda under new business, A, community engagement. Please, 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 this is not a final draft, this is a draft. For comments, concerns, any great ideas on how we can be better at engaging the community, because this process is super important and it does have a component. So the purpose of this community engagement proposal is because I was asked at a meeting to come up with one. So I did, and I worked with an awesome team to do that, to make sure that we are able to engage. Yes. I'm sorry, I see a hand.
I'm sorry, it wasn't December 2024, it was December 2025.
You voted on 2024.
That's 2 years.
You voted on
2024.
2024. We voted on 2024 now.
Sorry.
You raised your hand.
It's already done.
It's already
It's
done.
done deal.
So, back to the community engagement. So if you will notice in your packet, it's not numbered, But you'll see a cover page that looks like this, and it is called Community Engagement Discussion, because I really want to have this discussion with the commission. We have had it to some degrees, and so this is just to refine that conversation. And so one thing that I want to promote, and I am promoting with this proposal, is hiring a team to create a community engagement plan to implement it and to manage it, and to manage that process. So I don't feel like every IFA member needs to be at every event. So this was a way for me to kind of take a community focus. So it's different people. If you can show up and be there, you can be there, instead of the full commission always having to be at places and people don't show up. So if you can be there, you can be there. I'm trying to minimize stress exactly with this too. And so we'll have another team that's actually managing and creating the events and sending out the invites and doing the surveys and doing all of the things, and it will be a continuous process throughout the rest of the remainder of our tenure on this commission. And so we can also use this community engagement process to recruit people to continue this process for those people who have hard stops in April. That's a real thing. Like, some people really have hard stops in April. Maybe this process, just hypothetical, maybe this process could actually be used to start talking to and engaging the community and seeing who might be willing to step up onto this commission and fill in some spots. We are down spots as it is anyway. So, the types of engagement are in-person outreach, and that's like the churches, the legacy neighborhoods, public housing developments, other Buncombe County communities, schools, and youth groups. How do we keep them a continuous part of this conversation and help them with the recommendations? Now, I went to the YWCA for the education group event last week, and it was super awesome to see so many people that came out and engaged, and it was a great conversation. But we also talking about online and outreach, because everybody not gonna come out to an event. So that's the reality. And so how do we engage people online and offline, through the radio station, through online, through social media, digital news outlets, and printed outreach, like handouts. Like, I would love a good solid handout that has our schedule in there for our different IFA meetings, our community, like something simple that we can pass out as we talking to people about this process, that's got our new definition clearly stated, and all of the great things that we're doing, some highlights. You know what I mean? And so also been able to talk to the newspaper. Dr. Mullins has been doing a lot of outreach and engagement and talking to people across the country around this process. This is a way for us to really center locally and really put our feelers out to be able to engage the Black community on a wider span. So these are just potential activities. If you would notice, we went a step further because, I'm sorry, y'all, I love the RJC team, y'all. Let me tell y'all, these people is the best. And so if you flip the page over, where if you look over here, it says updated community engagement project summary for the Racial Justice Coalition. And so we worked on like just ideas, things that people say. I'm always taking notes in these meetings and in my own IFA meetings and other meetings that I attend around engagement. And so I bring it back to some of our commission, and we met and we talked about some ideas, and then I jotted down those notes and took it to RJC, and they kind of got us right. And so they got like how we can stream our events when we're in community doing workshops, because that's important, so they actually see us doing the work, because everybody not jumping on this. I'm just saying. That's the reality. And so it's just different ways to really engage our community. They will actually be scheduling the events, reaching out to the different communities as far as the county. If you go through, you will be able to see all of the different types of events. There's over, 14 events in here, just in engaging the community. So I don't know what money is better spent, especially around this process, than engaging our community and getting their feedback as much as possible on our recommendations and what we are proposing for them to benefit them. I'd rather them tell me what they think will benefit them. And so this is just an idea. This is a draft. It's not an idea, it's a draft. We took all the ideas and the conversations around this table from around community engagement and how we can do it. This is how we can do it. Y'all wanted me to come up. I came up with something thanks to a great team. So please look at it, and we will definitely, any questions, concerns, please let us know. Let me know. Let's have a conversation and start vetting this out a little bit. So
we will continue this conversation once you've read through it. It'll be on the next agenda, the November agenda.
Well, I guess my question is, I was at the community engagement session the other night, and most of the people who are like me, who grew up here poor.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, I was at the community engagement session at the YW last week, and most of the people who are like me, who grew up poor, black, without parents, were not in that room. Right. And so I'm going to be very frank with you. I see the same old with not only this, but the way we treat each other. Y'all talk about white folks. We are our own worst enemies, and I don't want to start cussing in here. But we are. We leave each other out. And a lot of us need to be repatriated back into the black community. We sort of like get together and decide what's going to happen. And then anybody that is of another opinion or another ilk, we kind of like castigate and isolate, okay? So that is why we have a talent drain in this community. You just don't bring people stuff and say, just because you think you somebody that you ain't, and say, here, this is, and this is the way it's going to be, and the rest of us come here, put our time and talent in the stuff. This would better be served if people from publicly assisted housing and other people who suffer will pay stipends to be trained to take this process over. I don't care what organization leads, it doesn't matter to me. But the people who need to benefit, and if y'all are out there, you need to tell these people. You're tired of being left out of process, and you're tired of it being a select same few usual suspects that get the funding, that get the recognition, and it's just, that's why they don't believe, because we keep leaving them out. We keep bringing these ideas to the forefront, but most of the people who need to be in this room have given up hope. I don't care how black you look. If your thinking is not on prime, it's just not. And that's just straight up. Okay? So it would be better to take these stipends and make people who do not even participate in the process, they are smart too. They can be taught, but they've been left out. We got neighborhood groups who've been specially appointed just because they do represent neighborhoods and communities. They're in this room.
So if you read through, I don't know what that was specific to, but we actually have to move to our next agenda item. But I'm like, are we gonna move to the next item on the agenda? Yes, please. So everybody, we get to the round table.
No, because round table, we need to, it's been time.
I know.
I'm just gonna say, my comment is that we have community associations. We don't need any, Shiloh has theirs, East End Valley has theirs, Southside has theirs. They're working in Stumptown. All you need to do is go to the association meeting, get with these presidents, these vice presidents. We don't need to reinvent nobody else to come in to help us, because we do the work if you come. Now, I'm going to put that there, but let me finish, and then you can have the floor. But I'm going to say this to anybody that does not realize we were raised during the time of the worst part of the harm, some of the worst part in Asheville. Anybody, you can say whatever you want to say, but we went through it, from the school system to the housing to try to get educated and then try to come back here and get a job. So I can tell you the story. It's not the story from my mother, my grandmother, or my great-grand. I'm gonna tell you what I know, what I went through, how I lived, and what we did, and I was not poor. But I still didn't have the opportunity because I was black. So when you want to talk about it, let's talk about, be real about how we've come forward. Because I can tell you, if you want to know about the block, anything you want to know about history, myself, D, this one, that D over there, we can tell you everything you want to know because we lived through it in the 50s and the 60s when Asheville was horrible. So now I'm just saying that. But we do have community associations and they do the work, so we don't need to reinvent.
So one thing is community engagement proposal is not to discredit any association because it's a lot of black communities that don't have associations. And let's be real intentional about that. And so this is to include everybody, including the association, while we all can't be doing the work together, even those groups of black community members who are in communities that don't have association, while we prioritizing one black group over another, it's all black people. That's what this community engagement thing about. So it's fine. I'm cool with whatever we want to do, but we're going to have a long time to think about it and marinate on it. So our next agenda item is, what is this?
Going home.
Going home. Okay, it's the round table.
No, we round table all night. We done.
Can we, what time is it? Okay, we've had a round table. We have one person that's here for public comment.
Oh, Lord.
Mr. Rob Thomas.
Yes, I can, cause it's 8 o'clock.
It's 3 minutes.
Actually, what I wanted to speak was speaking.
Can we have the public comment up at the podium? So
You gotta get to the podium.
You gotta go to the podium for real.
Mr. Rob Thomas.
Do I have to go to the
Yes.
podium?
Yes,
I'm not going to the podium. I got a long work day. I'm not getting up, not going to the podium. Y'all can hear me. I will talk a little bit louder. So what I was saying is that we do not have a way to allow community members into this table because we've had several community members that are interested in being reparations commissioners, and we are not at a lack of individuals wanting to participate. Y'all don't have a standard operating procedure, as far as I know. I'm gonna look for it. I've talked to people. As far as inviting people into the commission itself, and that's highly exclusive, and we need to deal with it. There's several people, especially in the younger generation, that would love to be in here and take over the reins. Let all the people that want to go home and not be a part of it, go home. You know what I mean? They have people in here that wants to do it.
But we would never get anything done because if we
This iteration, no.
I got to go. I got to go.
I'm gonna shut up. That's it.
I got to go. I got to go.
All right, so
I can't.
can we take a vote to adjourn the meeting? All those in favor? I mean, who said?
One last question. When is the November meeting?
All those, who made the motion?
It's in the book. Can you read it?
I'll make the motion.
It's the next meeting, November the
To
20th.
adjourn?
No, it's not.
Dwayne second, all those in favor? Aye. All right, meeting adjourned.